Okay, this tutorial will cover setting up software default settings in Microsoft Project 2010. So let's get started. This is what Microsoft Project looks like when you pull it up for the first time. It's a Gantt chart that's blank. We're going to go to the upper left-hand corner of the screen and click on the File tab. And you see the screen changes and you have a menu on the left. You want to go down to Options and click on that button, and a dialog box pops up. We are going to work primarily in the Schedule and the Advanced tabs. We're going to scroll through the Schedule tab, and we don't have enough time to talk about all the settings in the Options dialog box, but I want to hit on a few key highlights to make sure that you have certain boxes checked and that you have them applied to all new projects, so that you don't find yourself setting up defaults every time you open up a new file in Project. So here at the top of the Schedule tab, it says Calendar Options for this project. We want it to apply to all new projects, so we select that button. Okay, the week starts on a Sunday, fiscal year starts in January. That looks normal. We're going to leave that where it is. The start time, 8 a.m., the default end time, 5 p.m., 8 hours per day, 40 hours per week. This is called the units per time period settings. You want to make sure that this is reflective of the work calendar that you're assigning to your activities in the schedule. This is important that you have this set up correctly because this impacts start and finish dates and the way they're displayed on the schedule. Let's scroll down a little further. We show assignment units either in decimals or percentages. That's just a matter of personal preference. You can try both and see which you like better. The scheduling options, you want it to apply again to all new projects. I want to leave the auto schedule feature turned on, and I want to make sure that I pick the project start date for auto scheduled tasks to be scheduled on. So I've tried it the other way on the current date, and what happens is every scheduled task that you create, it puts a constraint on it to the current date. And I don't want to fill the schedule up with unnecessary constraints, so I leave it on project start date. Duration that you see on the schedule will be in days. That's a good starting point. If you want to change it to another unit of time, you can do that. The man hours, the resources that are going to be loaded into the activities are going to be measured in hours. The default task type is fixed duration. What that means is that if you change the resources in the activity, let's say you double them, you can set it up to where the activity duration cuts in half if you have twice as many resources. But that's not for what fixed duration does. You hold the duration in place with fixed duration, and your man hours simply double. So that's where I like to keep it as a default setting. And as you scroll through these different radio buttons, you'll see there's some information tabs next to them. You just hover over with your mouse cursor, and a box drops down with a little more detailed description of what these what these buttons do. So I want to make sure that tasks always honor their constraint dates, and I want to show scheduled tasks that have estimated durations. If you forget to put a duration in a task, it usually puts a 1-day duration with a question mark next to it, so you know that that's an estimated duration and you can change it appropriately. So as we scroll down, I want my schedule alerts to be applied to all new projects, not just the open file. I want the calculation to happen after each time I edit the schedule. If you get enough activities in the schedule to where this becomes a problem, it takes some time to do the calculation. Some people prefer to turn it off, but for smaller schedules, I dare say any schedule that most people would put together, you can leave the calculator on. Calculation options, again, I want to apply it to all new projects, and I keep these buttons checked because it came out of the box with these buttons checked, and I don't see any reason to change that. Define fixed cost accruals on a prorated basis. What that means is if I've got a cost loaded activity and it's 50% complete, I accrue 50% of that cost. So I'm going to leave that be, and I'm going to go down to the Advanced tab, and I'm going to scroll through this quickly to show you some key points. General options for the project. Again, if it gives me an option to apply it to all new projects, I check that box. I leave the planning wizard off for the most part. If you want some advice, if you're unfamiliar with the software and you like wizards, you can check these boxes, and the wizard will pop up all the time telling you suggestions. You can set your default standard rates and overtime rates if you decide to cost load your schedules. Let's see, I'll scroll down to the display settings, and there again there's an option to apply it to all new projects, so I do that. The way it calculates progress is based on physical percent complete. I want to make sure that box is checked on physical percent complete, and if you have a particular baseline file, that it's pointed to that specific file. The calculation options, again, I want to apply it to all new projects. And then a very important box at the bottom I want to make sure that you check is to move the start of remaining parts before the status date forward to the status date. What this means is that we don't want any incomplete work happening in the past, and we don't want any finished activities happening in the future. So this feature, if you complete a task, or excuse me, if you have incomplete work, it will push that activity to the right of the status date. So, and critical tasks are critical if slack is less than or equal to 0 days. That is the correct setting. So we'll leave it exactly how it is set up right there, and we'll go to the Save tab just so I can show you the autosave feature, which I think is pretty important. You click on the autosave and you can buffer the time to 5 or 10 minutes, and you can even click a box to have it prompt you every time it's going to do a save. I would leave that box unchecked unless you want to be badgered by the autosave every 10 minutes. So that is the conclusion of this tutorial. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.